ever faithful, ever sure. Jah live, children. And there's a natural mystic blowing through the air. Yeah!
What modern science knows about dreams is extremely limited. We can boil it down to dreams occur because of a chemical process in the brain during a certain state of consciousness, the sleep state, whereupon we hit a REM state, rapid eye movement, and by this state we can tell that the brain is active and the brain is dreaming. The brain dreams through chemicals. It seems like my whole life I've always put great importance on dreams. I did have sleep paralysis for 19 years, weekly, and sometimes a lot more often than that. Sleep paralysis is a state between the waking world and your astral world. And apparently there were some issues with me getting in and out of my body. In this space-time, I experienced something very frightening, very, very frightening. And so sleep paralysis is an interesting subject. If you want to look that up, I'll do a video on it one day. But that really gave me a, what'd you dream last night? What was going on in your dreams? I always knew that there was another world. Let's go back to the time of Freud. Freud was a great pioneer in the realm of dreams. Freud said that dreams were more than just a chemical. He said that there were meanings in the dreams, and if we look at them and if we analyze them in a specific way, then we'll be able to derive meaning from the dream. That's about as far as he took it. That was his big key gnosis. Dreams may mean something more than just pictures in your head while you're sleeping. His student, Carl Jung, came around at this time, and at this time we were in the industrial age, so people were looking more at logic and not so much at religion. There was a great upsurge in spirituality, Eastern thought. Their spiritualists come from this time period. Houdini comes from this time period. And so Jung is in this renaissance, so to speak, of logic. So I do understand that his culture really did color his more mystical side into a more logical side. Jung began breaking away from the Freudian thought when he began studying deeper meanings of dreams and the subconscious. And his studies took him to India, where he learned about Buddhism and Hinduism. And all he had to do was to read these ancient texts to get a map of the mind, which I think is what he was looking for. He felt like there must be something extra going on as his studies progressed. He saw beyond the logic, but he was very well aware that not many other people did. So I feel he wanted to explain it in a way to where people could understand it as a concept in a logical, so their brain could get it, so their mind could conceive of it, so that it might lead to a belief, later on. My favorite story is with when Jung was with a client. She was expressing a dream that she had had the night before, and within the dream, the major symbol was the scarab, which usually come from Egypt, and they're a sign of life, regeneration, rebirth. It's like the dung beetle, which has a lot to do with the death and rebirth process, that you need to shed your skin, so to speak, and able to allow for the new. And as she's telling him about this dream, he's looking out the window of his office, and he sees a scarab which is not indigenous to his area at all whatsoever. And he's quite amazed and shocked and surprised by this, and it takes a hold of him. He's like, oh my goodness, what was that? That doesn't fit into our Freudian logic. So I really think that was just one of the occurrences. I'm sure it occurred to him so many times that he could no longer ignore it. I'm sure it was, something that haunted him. And he came up later with the concept of synchronicity. Now understand, all he did was give it a name and explain it in new terms. These concepts have, as far as I know, always been around because they're universal concepts. So Jung was taking the spiritual, mystical, universal and putting it into this very small framework so that he could enlighten his peers. Through Jung's research of dreams and research of other forms of spirituality and mysticism and philosophy, he came up with a very nice framework for the time period. And even today, many people think Jung is the fringe. That's where the cutoff point is. If you believe anything deeper than that, then you must be nuts, because Jung is out there, man. And they don't really teach Jung much in college even. It's still a Freudian system. Yet when you get into spirituality, you're going to run across Jung quotes in almost every book you buy, because he's put it in a language that the Western mind can understand and grasp. Synchronicity is an amazing New Age concept that is so popular today that I hear about it from most of my clients. During most readings, there's oh my gosh, that's a synchronicity. And it's normal, honestly. And I don't know how Jung got away without speaking about it, long before. I have not had the privilege of reading the Red Book yet, so I understand that Jung may have gotten a lot of knowledge in his early years and just kind of let out what he felt he could let out in society at that time. It seems like he was very responsible, not wanting to go beyond where people were comfortable. He was very conscious of the world he was living in. There are different kinds of dreams, in the sense that there's just anxiety dreams, just fear-based dreams, dreams where your darkest fears manifest and you have to face them, which is great for cleansing. It really is, especially if you meditate on them, kind of take them home and say, okay, this is my homework, this is my lesson, so that that dream does not have to manifest in your reality, because that's what will happen. And that's what I've found, is that if you're not dealing with your subconscious, if you're not dealing with your deeper fears, and you're not loving yourself through them, if you're denying them, more than likely they're going to manifest in your reality. Like I say, it's your stage play. If you don't take care of your subconscious homework, it's going to show up in real life. So it's best just to confront these issues with love and gentleness. On the flip side, there are wish fulfillment dreams, which I also encourage you to take into meditation with you. They're great for manifesting in this world. Aleister Crowley said the mind is the crucible of magic. I would like to go a step further than that and say the subconscious is the crucible of magic. Has nothing to do with your consciousness, your higher will, your holy guardian angel, your higher self, the perfected part of you that is God, works through the subconscious, not the conscious ego. The subconscious is the most important aspect as far as co-creating with God. We must clear out the subconscious. We must heal, forgive, and resolve our issues from childhood, sometimes from past lives, and sometimes from the present. There are always patterns to refine and feelings to nurture. the subconscious really is your teacher in the biggest way possible. I think that the work that we do to clear out the attic of the subconscious is probably the most difficult work we do while in the body. Once we have cleaned out the subconscious from major fear, worry, guilt, patterns, codependency, workaholism, all of these things that may keep us from evolving. Once we kind of cleanse that area because we understand what's going on there, we understand the difficulties that it's been causing us, and we understand that change is the only way to move forward. So we decide on that change and we move forward. In that forward moving process is when you get your first glimpse or chance at the superconscious, as some have called it, Christ consciousness, as others have called it, the cosmic field. There's all kinds of names for this place. Isn't it funny that there's so many names for this place, yet so few people know about it? The Super Christ consciousness is a doorway, a step beyond the subconscious. I haven't read anything about Carl Jung mapping that part of the psyche, and I think because it's not on the third dimension. We're no longer speaking third dimensionally. This is fourth, fifth dimension information. And that's very important, and that's what we need to start learning now. We need to know that there's a great healing process, and it begins when you're dealing with your past, when you're dealing with childhood, when you're dealing with abandonment issues, when you're dealing with shame, guilt, and all of these patterns, and finding out that, oh my gosh, I have an ego, and that is separate from my perfected self, and I have a perfected self, wow, and I have angels and guides and all of these wonderful things to help me evolve my soul, because that is what I am here for. So as you learn through all of this, you understand that you chose the lessons that you went through in your childhood, and that you come to a much greater understanding of why you chose those lessons and how you can move on from that. And separating the ego from the perfected self gives you a better perspective on the ego and saying, oh, you know what? I'm human and I'm not perfect and things happen to me. And it's not my guilty, shameful fault. These are lessons that I needed to learn, and then taking it from that perspective, that life as a school is so much more healthy than running around, with your guilt pants on. I'm guilty, So that's all part of clearing out the subconscious, becoming friends with yourself. It's one of the most important things you'll ever do. It's the most important friendship you'll ever have, I'll tell you that. So your friendship with yourself. Then you get in the subconscious into the more fantasy side of the subconscious, because you cleared out the boogeyman and all that scary stuff. The ghost lady's gone. The voices have calmed down or are gone, and you're more just a clear, conscious, focused human. At this point, things start to get a little neat. Tapping into this super consciousness is where you get the memories of your past lives through dreams or just through meditation. It's being able to understand your soul on a much deeper level, beyond time, beyond form, beyond gender. What I feel is going on is that the pineal gland is now growing in a healthy manner. It's being watered, so to speak, with fresh, clean, filtered water of the subconscious, instead of being poisoned by all of the negative thoughts and all the negative feelings that it's had over the years, all the buildup. You've turned all that around, purified it, and now you're growing this wonderful pineal gland that is excreting possibly DMT. It's a good way to describe it, even though if it's not chemically, logically, scientifically correct. You're excreting this chemical that enhances you. It enhances your mind. It's almost psychedelic. I mean, that really is the best way I have found to describe it, is that it's a psychedelic experience because it has another sense to it, a fourth or fifth dimensional sense impending upon and working with your waking reality. So we've gone beyond all the things you'd need a psychologist for, all of these interpersonal workings. We've gone beyond that to a clear, focused, conscious human, and within that you get to the deeper aspect where you're seeing the beauty of life. Society becomes less important as you can see the things that they're holding dear as a collective of what purse you might have or what car you might drive, that you understand that these things are not what's important to you, and you're at a point of your own consciousness where the material world looks quite different, and what we call success also looks quite different, because your goals have shifted in alignment with the higher self, with your higher will, what your soul wants. And the ego is kind of in the back seat saying, can I get an ice cream, please? And you're like, sure, I'll give you an ice cream. But we're not going to buy that car, So you're more in charge and more in control of your ego, which feels wonderful, because the ego, as can be quite daunting at times, quite driving, telling us to do things that we know are obviously not in our best interest, but we do them anyway. So that's all about cleansing the ego. Once you are able to access the higher realms through a conscious link up with the superconscious or cosmic consciousness, Christ consciousness, then you get to be a parent to your ego. You get to be a mommy or a daddy and say, that's nice, kid. We're not going to behave in this particular way because it's really not going to nurture us. And I really have been appreciating that type of behavior in myself, to be able to be disciplined like that. And it feels like I got a monkey or an addiction off my back, that I can say, wow, my ego really wants that really bad, but I'm separated from it. I'm stepped back from it. And we can all do this with just a little bit of training and a little bit of love. So I'm thinking that the fourth and fifth dimensions are all about having a healthy pineal gland, and in order to do that, we must clear out the crucible of magic, the subconscious. And to begin to do that, we might want to look at Carl Jung, and we might also want to look at self-help books. I really like John Bradshaw, and just take a look around. You'll be guided in what you should get. And thank you, Carl Jung, for that synchronicity, that I know I can trust it, and that the people that watch this video that are at that level and need the self-help books are going to find exactly what they need. It's going to be timely, and it's going to empower them greatly. So blessings on that to all of you. It's the most important work you can do, remember that. So start today. Start right now. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you may have learned something from our little talk, and I look forward to your comments and your emails. Please friend, rate, and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Namaste. Blessed be.